2.5 minutes of hunting under pressure on one breath. Perhaps the idea of humans existing as marine mammals is not so far-fetched after all.
Standard medical science says that if you dive 100 feet on one breath, your lungs should be crushed. It says that if you live at 20,000 feet, your blood should thicken until it clots. Yet there are people walking this earth right now who break those laws every single day. For a long time, the West ignored them. But a new wave of daring anthropologists and geneticists decided to look closer. What they found hidden in the DNA of these tribes challenges everything we know about our species. The superhuman era isn't coming. It has been here all along. Surviving the crush of the deep. For centuries, sailors whispered stories about the sea nomads of Southeast Asia. They claimed these people, the Bahau, could walk on the ocean floor, stay submerged for nearly 15 minutes, and communicate with sea life. American and European physiologists dismissed these tales as sailor talk, the kind of exaggerations born from too much rum and too many long nights at sea. Human lungs have limits. The pressure at 100 feet is crushing. It was physically impossible. But here is the catch. In 2018, a researcher named Melissa Ilardo decided to stop laughing and start scanning. She brought portable ultrasound machines to the remote stilt villages where the Bajo live. What she found on that screen made her question the calibration of her equipment. It wasn't a glitch. The Bajo didn't just have good lungs, they had evolved an entirely different internal organ structure. The ultrasound revealed that the Bajo have spleens that are 50% larger than the average human. Now, most people don't think much about their spleen. It sits there filtering blood. But for a deep diver, the spleen is an emergency air tank. When you dive into cold water, your body triggers the mammalian diving reflex. Your heart rate drops and blood vessels in your arms and legs clamp shut to send blood to your brain. But for the Bajo, that massive spleen contracts like a biological fist, squeezing out a reserve army of oxygen-rich red blood cells. It is basically a natural blood doping system. While an Olympic swimmer trains for years to shave a second off their time, the Bajo are born with a genetic advantage that creates a supercharged oxygen supply. They possess a unique gene called PDE10A. This gene controls thyroid hormones, which in turn controls spleen size. This is not just training, this is genetic engineering by nature. It suggests that humans can evolve rapidly in just a few thousand years to become aquatic. This fuels one of the most controversial wild theories in anthropology, the aquatic ape theory. Proponents have always argued that humans have features like hairlessness and subcutaneous fat that resemble marine mammals. The Bajo proved that if pushed, the human genome will slide back toward the ocean. Are they the first step in a new branch of humanity that will eventually leave land behind entirely? But the ocean adaptations don't stop with breath. Imagine opening your eyes in a saltwater pool. Everything is blurry and stinging, right? That is because the human cornea doesn't refract light well underwater. But the Moken children, another tribe of sea nomads, looked at the scientists and laughed. A study led by Anna Gislin proved that Moken children have dolphin vision. When they go underwater, they can voluntarily constrict their pupils to a tiny pinhole, something normal humans cannot do consciously. At the same time, they stretch the shape of their eye lens, changing its focal length. This biological hack allows them to see tiny clams and sea cucumbers on the ocean floor with crystal clarity. European children who tried to replicate this failed miserably. It wasn't just practice, it was a neurological rewiring of how the eye connects to the brain. But the most chilling ability of the Moken isn't their eyes or their lungs. It is their sixth sense. In December of 2004, the Indian Ocean unleashed the deadliest tsunami in modern history. Hundreds of thousands of people perished. Modern radar and warning systems failed to alert the coastlines in time. But in the Moken villages, hours before the wave hit, the elders looked at the calm water and felt a vibration that machines missed. They call it the laboon, the wave that eats people. They abandoned their boats and ran to the high ground. While tourists with smartphones and scientists with seismographs were caught unaware, the illiterate sea nomads survived. Not a single Moken life was lost in their villages. They heard the frequency of the earth shifting deep underwater. Some theorists believe their constant immersion in water has sensitized their inner ear to infrasound, the low-frequency vibrations that whales use to communicate over hundreds of miles. While we rely on satellites, they rely on a connection to the planet that we have severed. It makes you wonder what else they can hear that we are deaf to. But if the ocean is strange, the mountains hide a secret that is even more alien. How the body survives the death zone. Gravity pulls on everyone, but some people seem to have found the off switch. Go to the Rift Valley in East Africa and you will see something that looks like a special effect. The Maasai warriors performing the adumu, or the jumping dance. Standing flat-footed with no running start, they launch themselves straight into the air, reaching heights of over 30 inches vertical leap. For context, pro basketball players train their whole lives to hit those numbers with a running start. The Maasai do it for hours in the heat while chanting. American biomechanics experts were baffled. They looked at the Maasai diet, which historically consisted almost entirely of milk, meat, and cattle blood. That is a cholesterol bomb that should clog every artery in a normal human body by age 30. A daily intake of 2,000 milligrams of cholesterol is standard for a warrior. The American Heart Association recommends less than 300. By all medical logic, the Maasai should be suffering from rampant heart disease. But when researchers checked, their hearts were pristine. Their blood pressure was lower than a vegan yoga instructor in Los Angeles. How? The answer lies in a genetic mutation involving the FABP1 gene. Their bodies have become incredibly efficient at metabolizing fats. They don't store cholesterol, they burn it as high-octane rocket fuel. This supports the wild theory that the paleo diet isn't a fad, but a genetic necessity for certain groups. The Maasai suggests that human metabolism isn't one-size-fits-all. Some humans are built to be carnivores, and feeding them grain is like putting sugar in a gas tank. Just a few hundred miles away, another tribe is breaking records. The Kalenjin people of Kenya. If you look at the winners of almost every major international marathon for the last 20 years, a staggering number come from this one single tribe. It is statistically impossible. It would be like everyone in the NBA coming from one small town in Nebraska. Scientists measured their ankles. It sounds weird, but it matters. The Kalenjin have exceptionally thin ankles and calves. In physics, this is moment of inertia. Every ounce of weight you add to your foot requires exponentially more energy to swing. Because their legs are like pendulums with very light weights at the end, they use 8% less energy per stride than a European runner. Over 26 miles, that energy saving is the difference between a gold medal and collapsing. But the scariest adaptation is found in the Himalayas. Climbing Mount Everest is a business of suffering. Above 26,000 feet, you enter the death zone. The air is so thin that your body literally starts to consume itself for energy. Brain cells die. Fluid fills the lungs, unless you are a Sherpa or a Tibetan. For decades, climbers assumed Sherpas were just fit. They are used to it, they said, but when lowland climbers get used to it, their bodies react by making more red blood cells to catch the scarce oxygen. This makes their blood thick and sludge-like, leading to clots and strokes. The Sherpas? Their blood stays thin. They don't make more red blood cells. Instead, their bodies became more efficient at using the tiny amount of oxygen available. Their mitochondria, the power plants of the cells, are like turbocharged engines that run on lean fuel. In 2010, geneticists found the smoking gun, a gene called EPAS1. Here is where the wild theory goes off the rails. This gene isn't human. Well, not modern human. The EPAS1 gene variant found in Tibetans matches the DNA of the Denisovans, an extinct species of human that vanished 40,000 years ago. It is ghost DNA. The theory goes that thousands of years ago, the ancestors of the Sherpa mated with these mysterious super hominids who lived in the high peaks. They inherited this alien bloodline, allowing them to survive where modern humans perish. We killed off the Denisovans, but their ghosts are still dragging climbers to the top of the world. But while some tribes welcome us to the mountains, others will end you if you step on their beach. Survival through isolation. Some legends are best left uninvestigated. In the Bay of Bengal, there is a green emerald of an island called North Sentinel. It looks like paradise. White sands, clear water, dense jungle. But if you step foot on that sand, you will likely not leave. The Sentinelese are the most isolated tribe on Earth. They have rejected all contact for 60,000 years. When a helicopter flew over after the 2004 tsunami to drop aid packages, a warrior ran out onto the beach and fired an arrow straight at the metal bird. He wasn't asking for help. He was telling the modern world to back off. In 2018, an American missionary named John Allen Chow ignored the laws and the warnings. He paid fishermen to drop him near the reef. He waded ashore with a waterproof Bible. The fishermen saw him drag his canoe up the beach. The next morning, they saw the tribe dragging his body through the sand. The internet exploded with theories. Why are they so hostile? One wild theory suggests they are guarding something. Not gold, but a biological truth. Perhaps they have seen civilizations rise and fall before, and their oral history tells them that pale skin brings death. And they are right. The real danger isn't their arrows, it is our breath. We carry flu, measles, and bacteria that would wipe them out in a week. They are a living time capsule of the human immune system from the Stone Age. Some whisper that their isolation has allowed them to develop senses we have lost. There are reports that they can smell intruders from miles away, like apex predators. Without the noise of the modern world, have they retained a telepathic connection to their environment? The Indian government has wisely decided to enforce a no-go zone of 5 nautical miles. They are the only humans on Earth who are legally allowed to eliminate trespassers without consequence. Move from the ocean to the deep jungles of Papua and you find the Korowai. Until the 1970s, the Korowai didn't know other people existed, and when they built their homes, they didn't build huts. They built skyscrapers. Using only stone axes and rope, they construct massive tree houses nearly 140 feet in the air. That is taller than a 10-story building. Why? The standard answer is mosquitoes or floods. But the Korowai tell a different story. They say they are hiding from the Laleo, pale demon-like spirits that walk the jungle floor at night. For years, skeptics rolled their eyes. Then producers for the BBC admitted that some of the cannibalism stories about the Korowai were exaggerated for TV ratings. But the fear of the spirits is real. A wild theory circulating in cryptozoology circles suggests the Korowai aren't hiding from ghosts, but from a species of giant primate, akin to the Bigfoot or Yeti that inhabits the deep unexplored canopy of Papua. Their houses aren't homes, they are fortresses against a predator that science hasn't classified yet. And then there are the ghost police of West Africa, the Zangbedo. If you visit Benin or Togo, you might see a cone-shaped haystack spinning in the middle of the street. There is no visible person inside. It spins violently, defying physics, dipping and diving. The locals say it is the night watchman, a spirit that maintains law and order. Western tourists laugh and say, "There is a guy in there." But here is the creepy part. During festivals, the handlers will sometimes douse the spinning haystack with gasoline and light it on fire. It burns, it spins, and when the fire is out, nothing is there. Or they will tip it over and it is empty. Skeptics say it is a mechanical trick, a masterful use of centrifugal force in hidden frames. But field footage often shows these haystacks patrolling uneven, muddy mangroves where a hidden wheel mechanism would get stuck. The Zangbeto now act as nature conservationists, patrolling the sacred forest to stop illegal logging. It is a brilliant blend of superstition and ecological enforcement. But the wild theory persists. Have the initiates of the Zangbeto discovered a way to use vibrational frequency to animate matter? Are we looking at a lost technology disguised as a religious ritual? But not all adaptations are about hiding. Some are about enduring the impossible cold. How the body becomes a radiator. The human body is supposed to freeze at 32 degrees. These people didn't get the memo. Deep in Siberia, in the Republic of Sakha, resides the coldest inhabited place on Earth, Yakutia. Here, the temperature drops to minus 90 degrees Fahrenheit. That is colder than the surface of Mars on a bad day. If you or I stepped outside without specialized gear, our corneas would freeze and our lungs would hemorrhage from the cold air. Yet the Sakha people and their horses survive. American physiologists were stunned to find that the Saka have a completely different metabolic rate. It is called non-shivering thermogenesis. Normally, when you get cold, you shiver. That is your muscles vibrating to create heat. But shivering burns energy fast and is exhausting. The Saka have a genetic adaptation involving the UCP genes that allows them to activate brown fat. Brown fat is like a biological furnace. It burns calories purely to create heat without the muscles moving. A Saka person standing still is generating as much internal heat as a Westerner running on a treadmill. They are human radiators. Their horses are even crazier. The Yakutian horse can drop its metabolic rate and essentially go into a walking hibernation. They can survive for days without food in temperatures that shatter steel. Wild theorists suggest that this adaptation is a remnant of the Ice Age. The Saka might be the closest living relatives to the humans who hunted mammoths. While the rest of us got soft in the warm equatorial zones, they stayed in the freezer, keeping the ancient fire burning. On the complete opposite end of the spectrum, in the scorching deserts of Namibia, live the Himba. You recognize them by their striking red skin, but that is not their skin color. It is ogize, a mixture of butterfat and red ochre stone. For decades, colonial scientists thought this was just decoration. Primitive makeup, they called it. They were wrong. Ogize is a technologically advanced barrier. It blocks ultraviolet radiation better than any SPF 50 lotion you can buy at a drugstore. It repels insects that carry deadly diseases. It traps moisture so they don't dehydrate in the 120-degree heat. But the most fascinating study on the Himba involves their eyes. There was a viral sensation claiming the Himba couldn't see the color blue because they didn't have a word for it. This was a misunderstanding. They can see it, but they categorize it differently. However, because they live in a landscape of endless reds, browns, and oranges, their visual sensitivity to shades of green is superhuman. A Himba tracker can look at a bush and see a slightly different shade of green leaf that indicates an animal brushed past it 3 hours ago. To a Western eye, the bush looks uniform. To a Himba, it is a neon sign. This supports the theory of neuro-linguistic programming that our language and environment physically shape the neural pathways of our brain. We are blind to things we don't have words for. The Himba see a world we literally cannot perceive. And finally, the Sami of the frozen Scandinavian North. They are the reindeer herders. For centuries, they claimed they could communicate with their herds telepathically. They use a style of singing called joik. A joik isn't a song about a person or animal. The Sami say the joik is the person. When they sing it, they invoke the essence of the thing. Researchers scoffed until they analyzed the herd dynamics. A Sami herder can calm a panicked herd of thousands of reindeer using specific vocal frequencies that seem to trigger a parasympathetic response in the animals. It is a sonic control mechanism. Furthermore, the Sami have been found to have a genetic resistance to the psychological effects of the polar night, months of total darkness. While a New Yorker would go insane from seasonal affective disorder after 3 weeks without sun, the Sami brain chemistry remains balanced. They have evolved to live in the dark. So what does all this mean for us? The architecture of the invisible. We have mapped the muscles, the lungs, and the blood. But the final frontier of human evolution isn't physical. It is cognitive. There are tribes operating on a frequency of reality that the modern world has completely tuned out. Take the Aboriginal people of Australia. For 60,000 years, they have navigated the vast, featureless deserts of the outback without compasses or maps. They call these routes song lines, ancient tracks woven into the landscape through song and story. Western anthropologists thought this was a poetic metaphor. They are singing the land, they said, but recent biology suggests the song lines might be a user interface for a sixth sense we didn't know we had. Scientists have discovered a protein in the human retina called cryptochrome. In birds, this protein allows them to literally see the Earth's magnetic field as a visual overlay, a heads-up display of the north and south. In modern humans, this gene is dormant, scrambled by the electromagnetic noise of our cities. But in the silence of the Australian interior, could it be active? There is a wild theory that Aboriginal Australians possess active magnetoreception. They don't just remember where the water hole is, they feel the magnetic pull of the earth in their ethmoid bone, a small spongy bone between the eyes that contains magnetite. When they go on walkabout, they aren't wandering aimlessly, they are locking onto a planetary grid. They are human GPS systems, and the songs are the coordinates. By severing our connection to the Earth with concrete and Wi-Fi, we haven't just lost our way, we have blinded a sensory organ. But if the Aboriginals mastered space, the Piraha of the Amazon mastered time by destroying it. Deep in the Brazilian rainforest, the Piraha people are an enigma that drives linguists to the brink of madness. They have no words for numbers. They have no words for colors. Most disturbingly, they have no grammar to describe the past or the future. Everything in their language is spoken in the now. A missionary turned linguist, Dan Everett, spent decades with them and realized something terrifying. They don't sleep. Not like we do. They take short 15-minute power naps throughout the day and night, rarely sleeping for more than 2 hours at a time. They call deep sleep the little death. Why? Because their brains aren't exhausted. Neuroscientists posit that a huge percentage of our brain's energy is consumed by the default mode network, the part of the brain that worries about tomorrow and regrets yesterday. It is the anxiety engine. The Piraha have simply turned it off. By encoding their language strictly in the present tense, they have rewired their consciousness to exist in a state of continuous flow. The wild theory here is that the Piraha have unlocked a quantum state of consciousness. They don't age the way we do because they don't perceive the passage of time as a linear decay. They are living in the immediate experience principle, a mental state that Zen monks spend 80 years trying to achieve. They are born into it. While we stress ourselves into early graves, they are thriving in a timeless, eternal present. But while the Piraha rest their minds, the Tarahumara of Mexico push their bodies into a realm that physics cannot explain. Known as the Ra'aramuri, or the Running People, they live in the Copper Canyon, a place so rugged it makes the Grand Canyon look like a playground. They run, not for fun, not for gold medals, but as a state of being. Races can last for 2 days, covering hundreds of miles without stopping. They do this in sandals made of old tire rubber, fueling themselves on nothing but corn beer. Sports physiologists tried to analyze their gait. They talked about elastic recoil and the efficiency of the Achilles tendon. But the math doesn't add up. The caloric output required to run 200 miles should lead to rhabdomyolysis, the breakdown of muscle tissue that poisons the kidneys. The Tarahumara finish these runs and then dance. This led to the central governor theory, the idea that fatigue isn't physical, but mental. Your brain shuts your muscles down long before they are actually empty to save you. The Tarahumara have somehow hacked this governor. They run in a trance state, potentially accessing a metabolic pathway that modern science hasn't identified yet. Some fringe researchers suggest they are tapping into the piezoelectric energy of the Earth itself. The quartz-rich rocks of the canyons, combined with the rhythmic pounding of their feet, creates a feedback loop of energy. It sounds insane, but look at the data. They are generating motion without the requisite biological fuel. They are hybrid engines running on corn and spirit. And then there are the Tsimane of Bolivia. If you want to live forever, you might want to stop washing your hands. The Tsimane have the healthiest hearts in the world. A specifically calibrated CT scan of their population showed that an 80-year-old Tsimane has the arteries of a 50-year-old American. Heart disease is non-existent. This makes no sense. They live in squalor. They have high levels of inflammation. They are riddled with parasitic worms, hookworms, roundworms, giardia. In a Western hospital, they would be patients in the infectious disease ward. But a groundbreaking theory suggests that the parasites are the secret. For millions of years, humans evolved alongside these old friends. Our immune system is designed to fight them. When we killed the parasites with modern hygiene, our immune system got bored and started attacking our own arteries and organs, causing the chronic inflammation that kills us. The Tsimane proved that humans are not individuals. We are holobionts, a collection of species working together. The wild theory is that the worms are actually secreting anti-aging molecules into the Tsimane bloodstream to keep their hosts alive longer. It is a symbiotic pact. We traded our internal ecosystem for sanitation, and the price was heart disease. The Semain are the only complete humans left, a biological fortress defended by a mercenary army of parasites. Finally, we look to the high Himalayas, but not at the lungs this time. We look at the heat. In the freezing caves of Tibet, monks practice tummo meditation, or the inner fire. It is a ritual where they wrap themselves in wet sheets soaked in freezing water, sit in the snow, and meditate. Instead of getting hypothermia, steam rises from their bodies. They dry the sheets, then they do it again. Harvard researcher Herbert Benson studied these monks in the 1980s. He found they could raise the temperature of their fingers and toes by nearly 17 degrees. Biology says this is impossible. You cannot consciously control your autonomic nervous system to that degree. You can't think yourself warm, unless the mind is a form of energy generator. The wild theory here connects to the rainbow body phenomenon in Tibetan lore. The claim that high-level masters can dissolve their physical bodies into pure light energy at the moment of death, leaving behind only hair and nails. Tummo might be the first stage of this process, the conversion of matter into energy via consciousness. The monks, the Tarahumara, the Piraha, the Aboriginals, they are all telling us the same thing. We have built machines to fly, to navigate, to heat our homes, and to remember our history. But in doing so, we let the machines inside us rust. These tribes are the guardians of the lost operating system of humanity. They hold the keys to the senses we silenced. The question isn't whether we can learn their secrets. The question is, if we turn those ancient switches back on, are we ready for what we will see, hear, and feel? The superhuman era isn't coming. It's waiting for us to remember who we are. If you could pick one of these super abilities, night vision, endless breath, or cold resistance, which one would you choose? Drop your answer in the comments. And if you want to know what else they are hiding from us, hit that like button and subscribe. You won't believe what we found in the Amazon.